Listen, I think I've answered. Okay, over there in the back. Do you want to just yell or you want to come up? It's a long walk. You can yell. Yeah.
That was a great presentation, and I'm super inspired.
I love that. Thank you so much for. So if you didn't hear her in the back, she said, you talked about innovation and being bold, but we work for municipal governments. How do we actually do that? And I actually disagree with the premise altogether, because I believe that because we are all in the world of public sector, that automatically we say to ourselves, we're not innovative. We can't be bold. And I disagree with that orthodoxy completely. You know, we used to be the ones that created the innovations, that helped solve problems, that brought people together. Like government were the disruptors. And I believe that that's just a mindset at the end of the day. Some of the most brilliant people that I've seen work within municipalities, work within the public sector. And I believe that we need to switch our mindset. Because let's be honest, everybody in this room, we want to innovate. We actually want to make our organizations run more efficiently and more effectively. We want to serve our citizens better as well, but we've created this mindset where we can innovate. And I think part of the reason why we've built this mindset is because we're afraid. We're afraid of what the citizens are gonna say. We're afraid of what's gonna hit the newspaper. But I promise, actually, if you ask your citizens, hey, are you willing for us to take a very small experiment and fail just so that we can reach better outcomes later? I actually think that they would say yes. We're actually willing for you to continue to keep taking small failures so that we can reach our outcomes later. And if that is articulated in a way that makes sense for them, I believe that they'll come on our journey. But I believe that the best way to start is just to start. It's to be that catalyst in the room to say, how do we try something innovative? It's bringing people along the journey within your organization and say, hey, we're trying something new. Can you come and work on this together? And developing this innovation mindset. So I really appreciate that question. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. That was great. I took a page of notes. I love innovation. Love what you were saying about that. I guess the one critique of innovation is that when we love new ideas, I think this room loves new ideas, we love going forward, but we forget sometimes about the importance of tradition and history, right? So I guess, how do you balance that? One of my sayings is that people say, think outside the box. I'm saying, but yeah, the box is actually important because you can't think outside the box without the box, right? So, and I think you were getting to it a little bit with talking about how bringing people along, just in that last response there, but talk to me about how you marry progression and innovation with history and where you've been as well. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. The one thing about innovation that I think a lot of people get wrong is they think that it's about thinking outside the box, when I think that's actually a cute part of it, but it's actually only 1% of it. Actually, innovation is the 99% is actually executing. It's actually going off and doing something about it. Today, you don't need the best ideas in the world. You can get them anywhere. You can get them on using generative AI. You can get them in this room. I believe that we already have the best ideas that we need in this room. It's actually going off and executing against it. When I talk about expertise and knowledge, I believe that's important. I believe that it's marrying the new ideas with our existing knowledge of our particular industry, and how can we marry those things together. That's why I believe that innovation should be permissionless within our organizations, so that we can marry those two. But I also don't want people to get so romantic about what worked in the past. Listen, AI, for example, it does not care about your status. It does not care about your experience or knowledge or what happened in the past. It's only looking at making things more efficient today. And so we need to wrestle with this idea of what is my identity and what am I holding on to the new thing that's coming out. And so I believe in what's happening today, but just make sure that you're not so romantic about your existing processes and how things work today. You know, the best organizations in the world get disrupted not because they don't have the best teams, not because they don't have the best ideas, not because they don't have the best resources. They get disrupted because they get really romantic about their existing processes and their existing models, and it's very difficult to pivot and move when the environment changes around you. So I would say just be cognizant of that romance. So I appreciate that. Go ahead.
Loved your presentation, thank you. One of my challenges going to a conference is I get all inspired, and then I go home, and what did I get from it, and how do I move forward? So I would love if you could give us, as individuals, suggestion when we wake up tomorrow, what should we do to embrace the bold?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You're absolutely right that we all come to these conferences and then we forget everything that the guy just said up on on this stage, because you know what? This is theater. I'm not gonna lie to you, this is theater. This is fun, you can get your popcorn, you can enjoy this session, but the difference between this and actually what you should be doing is going off and taking a very small experiment. Going off and see, how can I try this new thing that he was been talking about? How do I send that small email to a new startup or to a new organization that I've been waiting to send? Like, to me, it's about doing something, it's starting. And what I love is having, accountability partners around us to say, hey, maybe we find a couple people and say, hey, how do we start doing something very small that's innovative and start moving that muscle just a little bit? So that's what I would just say is just start. I mean, you could start by just, taking some of those AI tools and saying, how do I play with this and how will this impact what I'm doing for my organization or for my community? I would say just start. That's it. The idea of innovation is not, it's not about thinking innovatively, it's actually just, it's acting. And the other thing that I would say, because we're here at a conference, is I believe that the best way of moving innovation forward is actually to get more people drunk. Because that's applause, yeah. Because what happens is that, part of the reason why we don't want to innovate is because we don't understand each other's missions. And the more that we can understand each other's missions, the more that we can move our missions ahead. Because once you're in that 3-hour session with somebody, you're like, you understand their vulnerabilities, you understand what's really on their mind, and then you really understand their missions. And then you can say, hey, this is my mission, this is your mission, how can we move this forward? And I believe, because of COVID and, remote work, like, it's become very transactional. And I believe that we've lost that ability to connect and understand each other. And what's wild is that, we come to conferences like this and you see so much energy and collaboration and innovation coming from these things. So my suggestion is to get more people drunk. We can get one more question, so. Yeah, go ahead.
So as a new employee in municipal government who just sent her boss that, how do I get myself fired every day? And he laughed, ha, 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 did you write that? I go back to, and I have a marketing public relations background, I go back to your radical and changes for the love of stories. And that's how I will always, if you can find the story in it,
yes, that
is how I have been radically changing the environment that I work in. And you are an amazing storyteller. You've held us captive here for this time. And I'm wondering, like, even as a storyteller, what tips do you use or tricks or any ideas in telling our stories going forward to make that change happen?
Yeah, I love that question. Thank you so much for the compliment. It's interesting. A number of years ago, I did a consulting engagement with the Calgary Economic Development Group. They were trying to find some metrics, new metrics of how they should measure their impact. And of course, the way that we measure impact in economic development is by looking at the investment within our particular regions. It's looking at jobs. It's looking at local GDP. It's all these like traditional metrics. But let's be honest, we get paid based on stories. Economic development gets paid based on stories, based on the narrative. Because to be honest with you, no one knows what we do. And we get paid on those stories. And I believe that everybody in this room should focus on how do we become better storytellers? How do we become better at telling a better narrative of what we are doing? And to me, one of the best ways of storytelling is just to be more authentic, be more real at the end of the day. I see so many economic development organizations putting together this like really fancy corporate video, like it's not real at the end of the day. All the technology at our fingertips. There's so many ways of getting out our story, whether it's through social media or through newsletters, through books. There's so many ways, and that game is always changing. So how do we stay on top of all the ways that people are consuming? I started my career at a company called Singapore Press Holdings in Singapore. They had a monopoly over all the newspapers in Singapore. And my job there was to be their media strategist, to figure out what the future of newspaper would look like. And my boss at the time, he told me, you know what you should do, Shawn? You should take a look at some of what the best newspaper companies in the world are doing and then talk to people on the street. And it's funny because when I talked to the people on the street and I saw what people are doing as best practices within their particular industry, their innovation was, how do we take this broadsheet newspaper and turn it into a tabloid-sized newspaper? Like, how could somebody read a newspaper on a train? That's what everybody was talking about. We never talked about any of the ways that people get media today, which is through like social media. Most people get their news through like TikTok or Twitter today. And sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night with a nightmare thinking I am the reason why the media industry sucks because of my work. And actually, I'll never make the same mistake again, which is getting really romantic about what the best practices are or what my stakeholders are saying, but instead actually observing people. How do people react? How are people looking at stories? How are we shaping narratives? And today, the way that people are shaping narratives is, a lot of it's through social media, but I believe that getting people in person is so undervalued. I believe that in a highly digital world, we get disproportionate value in meeting people in person and convincing people on a one-on-one basis. So I guess on that note, I just want us to double down on humanity and I guess get more people drunk. So I want to thank you so much for your time. I'll be around for more questions at the back. Honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.